This is special. We've taken the show on the road. We're in the Score Studios, their performance studio. It is a special episode of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. Mark Shanowski, Stacey King, Tim Kelley alongside, and we thank all the employees of Odyssey and the Score who are here to keep us company as we do the show today. And, of course, the Score is the flagship station of the Chicago Cubs, Stacey. They are red hot. They've been on fire since the All-Star break. Kind of gave one away against the Mets yesterday, which hurt, but they're only 2.5 games out of first place in the division, right in the race for the wild card. And who knows, we could have postseason baseball in Chicago. It didn't look that way a few weeks ago.
Well, listen, I'm really excited because, I mean, they're right there, and they've been playing really, really well. And it's great to see a Chicago team. I'm a Chicago sports guy, so, you know, people always say you got to pick one or the other. You're either a Sox fan or you're a Cubs fan. Well, I wasn't born in Chicago. I was born in Oklahoma, so I just like to see teams do well. It's great for the city. It's great for the fan base. It's great nationally. And to see these guys, you know, in position to possibly be playing in the playoffs is awesome.
See, Stacey's walking a fine line here because this is the home of the Cubs, but he's employed by a team that Jerry Reinsdorf owns. So you got to be real careful.
That's uncalled for, Mark.
How about that?
You know what, Mark? That's uncalled for. You might get a throat punch.
How about that Baltimore Orioles bullshit with the announcer being suspended for reading facts about their season series against Tampa Bay?
I'm gonna say this. That was the craziest thing I'd ever heard before. I mean, the guy was just reciting stats that were true, that you could look up on, you know, Google them and you can find those stats. And to be suspended for that is a joke. Listen, people, if you watch us on TV, you know, we're some days we're critical of the Bulls. Like when they're not playing well, I'm one of the biggest rah guys in the game. You know, when they're playing well, the dunks, the 3-point shots, you know, I'm hyping it up to with the best of them. But when they're not playing good, I let you know they're not playing good, and I can tell you why they're not playing good. And I will say this, Jerry Reinsdorf has never came down to me or Adam or me and Neil to ever critique something that we've said about the team. Because when he hired me, one of the things that we talked about, I said that, you know, hey, look, I'm not going to be a homer. So if you want the homer guy, you're hiring the wrong guy. I'm going to call it the way I see it. And Jerry, give him credit, he said, hey, look, Chicago sports fans are very knowledgeable. They're the best. They're the best in the game. They know when someone is BSing them. And so call the game the way you see it, and do your job. So for 18 years, I've been doing my job. I've never once had him come down and say something that I had said about the team, or Neil or Adam critiquing the team.
The thing that was really odd to me about that whole Kevin Brown situation was, you know how it works. You have a great graphics producer, Tamara Anderson, who you talk about what you want to do in the pre-show open and stuff. So the graphics are on the screen with all the numbers, and basically Kevin Brown's just reading what the numbers are, and that warranted a suspension. And the other day at the ballpark, they're yelling "Free Kevin Brown!"
Oh yeah,
Free Kevin
that was very
Brown,
loud.
you know.
And if you're the owners, you don't want to hear that. That's something you don't want to hear, because your fan base, they got a good fan base in Baltimore. And for them to take to that extreme showed you that was really, really unnecessary. Listen, you pay a guy to do a job. His job is to basically give stats. His job is, listen, Baltimore, it's not his fault Baltimore hadn't won.
No, he didn't pitch.
He didn't pitch. He didn't hit. He's just saying, hey, look, they've had a tough time coming down here playing this team. This is the one team that gives them problems, and this is the reason why. They haven't won in X amount of years. This has happened. He was just telling the truth. And so, because when I watched the clip and they said, you know, Baltimore Orioles announcer suspended, I thought maybe he said something inappropriate, because, you know, that's been said, you know, a couple of times from some guys. So I thought maybe he had said something that was inappropriate. So when I was watching it, and I had to replay it like 3 or 4 times.
There's
I'm like, maybe
there.
I missed something. Did he say something like, you know, and I didn't see anything. And I'm like, wow, like he got suspended for just talking about the truth? Yeah. Wow.
Now you guys are going to get some real insight. We're going to ask Whispers what he thinks. You got any comments on his Whispers?
No, because you guys have suspended me before for, well.
We've tried. You always keep showing up.
You're like athlete's feet. You just keep coming back.
Can't get rid of me.
All right, let's get back to the Cubs. Obviously, they've had the best offense in baseball since the All-Star break, averaging about 7 runs a game. And, you know, the things have finally clicked. They made a good trade to get Jeimer Candelario, who's a switch hitter, can play first base and third base, and all of a sudden the lineup is looking much better than it did early in the season. I think really, Stacey, the question is, do they have enough starting pitching to get them to October? Because right now Marcus Stroman's on the injury list. Drew Smiley's been terrible. You know, they're going to have to get more starting pitching if they're going to make the playoffs.
Well, I was just happy they didn't get rid of Bellinger, because that was
Yeah.
that was a talk earlier that maybe they'd get him, trade him, get some pieces in, and basically right off the season, and they kept him, and so it's really good that they kept him. Pitching is important. I mean, you gotta be able to pitch in the postseason, and that's something that. They're going to have to, it's like, patchwork. You're going to have to get guys maybe who are long relievers to come in and pitch games for you. Can they do it? Yeah, they can do it. Confidence is big in professional sports. When guys,
They got time to figure it out.
yeah, well, they got the Sox next week, so.
Royals.
But in the Royals, I mean, they got some games coming up, but confidence is big for a team like this. It's like, hey, you know what? Now we see that we put the work in. We didn't get frustrated. Now we're starting to see wins. Come out every night, every day, compete at a high level. The fan base is rabid. Let's just see where this goes. And I think they've got a good shot. They're a few games out of the wild card spot. They're chasing Milwaukee right now. They're a little bit behind them. But, they go through a stretch where they can, it's all about winning series. Just like in basketball, it's about winning series, playoff series. It's like you got a 7-game series. You get the first one that wins 4, that's going to be the winner. So you got to look at it that way if you're a baseball team too. It's winning series. So we got a 3-game series against, we got a 2-game series against the Sox. Let's win both those games. The Sox are struggling. Those are 2 games on the schedule that you look at and you say, we got to have those games. Now you look at Kansas City and you're saying, well, that's going to be a little bit tougher, but let's try to get, 2 out of 3.
I know both you and Whispers are big fans of boxing and MMA. What'd you think about Tim Anderson's boxing stance the other day?
Oh, man, he should have bobbed and weaved a little bit better, man. Listen.
A right-hander, the way
America,
he lined up.
America,
not a good idea.
listen, America. I don't condone fighting, okay? I don't condone
But
fighting.
if you're going to fight, better do it
I don't
right.
look for trouble, but I don't run. But I don't condone fighting. I've thrown a few blows here and there myself in my time. But Tim Anderson, you got to know, like, if you're going to ball up your fist and you're going to square up, and you got to expect, like, the other guy's going to do it too, because he's not going to punk out. He's not going to say, well, Tim's got his hands up. I don't want to fight him. So that's your manhood being tested. And baseball is like hockey. They go at it. So when Tim got up and was, he was bouncing around like, Terrence Crawford, I was like, okay, T.A., like, he can throw them hands. And then all of a sudden, he was like, he swung, boom, boom. He got a couple of hits in there, but then he didn't cover up. You got to step back, T.A. You can't just keep staying in there in the pocket. You're not Mike Tyson. You back up 2 steps. Get your bearings and then come back with a jab. Plop, plop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's in there. He's in the pocket like he's in a phone booth. But he failed to put the right hand up to block the punch. And the dude Ramirez was just swinging. He was throwing haymakers. His head's down. I mean, he looked like a second grader trying to fight. But
He caught him on the jaw, though.
the one he connected on. That's all you need to do, America. You just got to connect one time. And T.A. and the funny thing about it is, like, your feelings get hurt when that happens because everybody in the world sees it, So your feelings get hurt, So you're like, man, everybody saw me get knocked out. I got to get my lick back. I got to get my, my opportunity back. So Ramirez apologized. He apologized, said, hey, I'm sorry to the fan base. Shouldn't have done that. I'm a better person than that. I hope he accepts my apology. T.A.'s not hearing that.
He hasn't said anything since the incident.
No. Behind the scenes, he's probably hitting a heavy bag. He's probably jumping rope.
And he's getting tons of abuse from his teammates, too.
He's doing one-arm push-ups.
Yeah.
And then his coaches, or Ozzy's probably saying, you can't win, Rock. You can't win.
Of course, Stacey, you said that you're undefeated in fights, but you want to tell our great audience about the one fight you lost?
Mark, you're always digging up trash, okay?
call, Mark.
Listen, America, listen. I'm 100-0-1, okay? And that one tie, I consider it a tie, but some people might consider it a loss, okay? If you go back, I don't remember what episode when we first started. We were talking about fights and kids' fights and all this stuff. So I get into a fight with a one-armed girl. Yeah, it's a one-armed girl, America, okay?
Think about that.
Think about that. Okay, Stacey King was raised not to hit girls, number one.
Right.
Okay, I come from a military family. My mom and dad instilled in me never to hit a woman, never hit a girl. So I'm fighting. I'm not fighting. I'm defending myself. I'm fending off a one-armed girl, and she's just wailing on me. Blah, blah, blah. Grabbed me by my afro, threw me down on the ground, and just starts beating me. So I go home. I'm all beat up. My shirt's ripped. I got a little bloody lip. And I run into my dad, and my dad say, what happened to you, boy? You get into a fight? I said, yeah, I got into a fight. He said, did the other guy look like you? It was a girl. And my dad's just like, what? A girl? I said, yeah, she had one arm. He said, one arm? Get the hell, one arm? You got beat by one arm girl? And I never was able to live that out. So whenever we have family get-togethers, my brothers tease me about the one-armed girl. And it's something that's not something I'm proud of, but
Yeah.
I don't hit women, so I'll take the loss, Mark. So there.
Well, I thought our audience would enjoy that. So
I don't think-
Did you
I don't
line
think
up as a lefty or a righty?
Mark, you know what? You're really taking this too far. You really crossed the line, Mark. You know, I normally don't throat punch Mark in public.
Yeah.
And on a show, I normally throat punch him, but Mark, you're very close.
All right. Well, we'll move on then.
Yes, let's move on.
The other big story around the White Sox these days is various teammates who have been traded away for different reasons have spoken out about the fact that the culture in the White Sox clubhouse isn't all that great. Keenan Middleton, who was in town with the Yankees the last few days, mentioned that Pedro Grifol has no rules, there's no accountability, guys are sleeping in the bullpen, in the clubhouse, everything else. I mean,
Totally.
Pedro
Is he still
Grifol
there?
is a guy who came from Kansas City as a bench coach, his first chance as a manager, but some of these comments are scathing. And then Lance Lynn, who's now with the Dodgers, was asked about Keenan Middleton's comments, and he, slyly said, well, he ain't wrong. So it suggests that things have completely unraveled in that White Sox clubhouse.
Yeah, that's stuff that needs to be in the locker room. You know, when you have this kind of information coming out from former players, that's not a good look for the White Sox. It's not a good look for the manager, Pedro, because, everybody always says, like, when you talk about leaders of teams, individual players, championship teams, Chicago that I played on, Michael Jordan was the leader, Bill Cartwright was a leader, John Paxson was the leader. No, those guys were guys who were good players who also followed the lead of the head coach. When you talk about team sports, the leader is always the coach. The coach is always the leader, the manager of the baseball team. They're the leaders. They're the guys that set the tempo. They're the guys that set the rules. Those are the guys that get everybody in position to be successful. It's not the players. The players just reinforce what the manager is talking about. So when Phil came in as my rookie year was his rookie year as a coach, he took over for Doug Collins. That could have been a really tough situation for him because the fact that here he is a new coach, no NBA experience other than being an assistant coach for the Bulls during that time, and you're going up against the greatest player on the planet, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan could have ran all over Phil. That didn't happen. One, because Phil is 6'10", that wasn't going to happen. And number two, he had the backing of management with Jerry Krause. Whatever Phil said, Jerry Krause backed him up. So, Michael, once your star player buys into what you're trying to do, everyone else falls in line. So if Tim Anderson falls in line with what Pedro is, what he's trying to do and what he's teaching and what his rules are, everybody else is going to fall in line. If your star players don't buy in, then your younger players don't buy in. If you cut corners with your veteran players and say, he's late to practice, I'm gonna overlook that. This guy's late to the plane, I'm gonna overlook that. But then the younger player does the same thing, and then you say, I'm gonna fine you $20,000, or I'm gonna suspend you. So now your younger players, all the younger players are looking at all the guys who are not superstar players and looking at the coach going, wait a minute, this dude's always late, this dude's never on time. You don't ever say anything to him, but you come down on me. And that's one thing that Phil never did. If Michael was late, Michael got the same treatment as all of us did. It was, you got fined, boom, boom. There was no discussion, oh, Mike, you got to come in time. It was like, cha-ching, cha-ching, put the money in the kitty, we'll shoot for it later. And that's how it was. And he did that for everybody. That gained the respect of everybody in that locker room, that Michael didn't get special treatment, Scotty didn't get special treatment. We all treated the same. And I think that's the way, I think sometimes coaches forget that and rely too much on the players to be the leaders.
Whispers, what's the culture like in the business you run?
It's rough. It's really rough. I mean, everyone talks behind each other's backs, and we're a bunch of backstabbers.
You would love to work for Tim Kelley. He always has 2 kegs tapped in the office. I don't know how they get any productivity in there.
I knew you'd disclose the real culture.
So everybody's
That's
drunk.
part
That's
of
why nobody listens to you, right?
That's right. Pool tables, dartboards. Yeah, but look at the line out the door for people wanting to come work there.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like Pavel.
Yeah,
See the quality
Where are
of
those
the
people at? No, seriously, this guy right here, this guy here in America, Timmy Whispers. I gave him that nickname because he barely talks, and I'm good at nicknames, so that's where he got Whispers from. But we've been friends for over 30 years, and it's been 30 years of abuse on his part to me. And this is like
No,
one
Mark,
of my.
you've seen it.
I've seen it, yeah.
And so when I put this show together, I was just telling Dan Bernstein and Lawrence Holmes, when I put this show together, I wanted people that I work with, that I like, my friends. Because when you have your friends and you're working with your friends, it never feels like work. It never feels like a job. And I'm sure you guys here working for the Score the same way. You come to work every day, you know you're going to be next to someone that you enjoy working with, or you're working with a team of people. That's what it's like, because Mark is one of the best in the business in Chicago sports. He's one of the best, sports broadcasters. The guy just knows everything about sports, and he does a great job of moderating the show. As you can see, we can get off track very quickly, but Mark is always there to reel us back in. And then Tim brings his own element. He's like our little Chewy, when you have a little sidekick with a little dancing monkey with a cup. That's
Oh, boy. Compliments keep flowing. See, we keep the culture alive.
Yeah.
Right through
Yeah,
the show.
yeah.
Some things never change.
yeah, never change. Get us back on track.
Of course, you guys know on the radio business that you got to have some good sponsors. We have a few that we really enjoy. Our good buddy Jeff Vukovich. When it comes to insurance for your auto, home, and business, make sure you contact the king of insurance, our friend nationwide agent Jeff Vukovich. You can reach him at jeffvuk.com. That's jeffvuk.com. We also got the phone number on the read today, 847-825-4783. Of course, all the folks out there know about Jeff Vukovich, who's involved with all of Chicago's teams, sponsors a lot of the telecasts and a lot of the great work that goes on in the Chicago media market. He also has the best jingle in the business, Stacey.
Nationwide is on your side.
Stacey's got to sing for her supper, even on the road. So
Oh, the Golden
always
Pipes, baby.
appreciate
They
him
work
coming
all year
through.
round.
You might have noticed when you walked in, Stacey's got his own signature hot sauce, and we've got some on the table in front of us, and there's some stuff as you walk out the door.
Yeah.
And Stacey and Tim have worked really hard on this project. It's now available in Jewel
Some good stuff,
Osco's
too.
stores, and we even have celebrity impersonators to tell you about how you
Great.
can get your own bottle.
That's right, Mark. It's all about the jewels. Everyone
The
can
jewels.
go there and get the two flavors that we don't have in the jewels here today for Mark and you to sign. So after the show, guys, grab yourself a bottle. We'll hand you the pen. He'll sign it, and you'll take some sauce home with you today. That's right.
So you've been on the road, Christopher? You've been doing any gigs?
Filming some new stuff.
Yeah.
I can't talk about it, but it's all right. It's Joe Dirt too.
Joe Dirt 2? Was there a big outpouring of interest in that?
Yeah, it's a Netflix thing, but that's where I'm at now in my career. That's where it's gone.
What about that Whispers guy? Is he still packing sauce back in the back room?
That idiot doesn't know what he's doing. That's why the other two sauces aren't in Jewel. But Stacey and I, coming up, are going to do some signings in Jewels. And we'll be signing all 4 bottles as we put some pressure on them. I've been sent in by the king here to tell them how this is going to work out.
So Kelley's got 2 kegs in his office, and there are boxes of sauce everywhere. Are you tripping over the boxes, Chris?
You've identified the problem with your brilliance again, Mark. See, that's why we need those flavors in the Jewels.
In the jewels.
That's
The
right.
jewels.
Christopher Walken, always a hit.
This
So
is
we
it's
appreciate
always
you
a
dropping
hit on
by.
the
Tell the
show.
folks how they can get, if they don't live in the Chicagoland area where they can go to the local jewels, how can they pick up a bottle?
GimmeTheHotSauce.com. That's Gimme. Hotsauce.com. Just like the show.
And a special code.
That's right. Walk in queue.
No, that ain't right.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I thought it was King 21.
No. We're giving
You've
away
taken
free
over the
bottles.
operation?
Yeah, it's walk in queue and walk in fire. Open your ears.
Oh my God! Hey,
Somebody get the
hey,
hook.
I forgot to tell y'all. So yesterday, I normally keep hot sauce at my house, like it's my name on it, so I should have some.
Yeah.
But so my kids just drink it like it's like juice.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any to throw on my my eggs, my omelet. So I'm like, damn. Like, I got to get some hot sauce. So I called DoorDash. Shout out to DoorDash. I called DoorDash. I put an order in at Jewel to get the hot sauce. So I look on the
had
Jewel
to
to
buy
see if
your
they
own
had hot
sauce,
sauce. I had to buy my own hot sauce. But it was
Oh,
cool, though. It was
man.
a great experience because I didn't think they
Did you
they
use the
sold it.
discount code?
No, I didn't use it. You don't use it on DoorDash. but I was so surprised. Like, I mean, I've seen it in Jewel. I've seen it in a lot of Jewels, but I've never ordered it. So like, I felt like I was doing something really cool. I said, I'm gonna buy me 2 bottles of my own hot sauce.
There you go.
And that's what I did. So it was pretty cool. But I'm telling you, America, if you haven't tried this hot sauce, trust me, you're missing out. And she'll like it too. Get your mind out the gutter, get out the rabbit hole, America. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real hot sauce.
Hey, since we're here at the Score Studios, we are very fortunate to have one of the great hosts who's going to join us, Danny Parkins from the afternoon drive show, Parkins and Spiegel, is coming up next on the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. We'll add the music in post-production, right, Nicky? We are back. We are live from the Score Studios, the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. If you're keeping track at home, it's episode 141. We've been doing this for a while, Stacey.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like 141.
Yeah, we had a ton of fun.
I mean, listen, the other day I was just going back through the old videos, because we're doing some shorts and stuff for YouTube. So I was going back looking at how far we've progressed, and from the first show when we were basically
smoke signal,
we were in the dark. The
Yeah.
sound was terrible. Like it was just so see how far we've come. Has
Gold
been awesome.
microphones.
The graphics
Yeah,
weren't
we had
even worthy of a
we had
college
some like
station.
Snoop Doggy Dogg pimp microphones. They were gold, and yeah, we've come a long way.
Well, Tim's still selling those out of his
Yeah,
trunk.
he's still he still got them. He's still selling them on eBay. Get Stacey King's first microphone.
Still had your DNA on the mic.
Oh, come on.
Wow, come on.
Again,
man.
once again, we got to reel it in. We got a
Yeah, come
professional
on.
here. Danny Parkins, host of the 2 to 6 Parkins and Spiegel show. Thank you so much for joining us, coming in early. Oh, we get some applause.
I mean, I couldn't miss the opportunity to be on episode 141.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of classic episodes,
Yes.
141 is always the one that stands out.
Oh my God, what an honor. This is incredible. And Stacey, what did you do to upset the one-armed woman?
Well,
I'm just asking.
Because technically, I beat up her brother we were in kindergarten together, and I beat him up because he hit me in the knee with back in the olden days, you used to have those big building blocks. They used to be this big.
Yeah.
And I was building something, and he took it, and then I went over and took his back, and then he whacked me in the knee, and then I beat him up. And Saturday, I was walking to go meet some friends at the playground, and then they just got ambushed. I was ambushed. I was circled by like 10 little kids, and then she's the leader of the group. She said, "You beat my brother up." I lied and said, "No, it wasn't me." And I was like, so then next thing you know, it was on. She whipped the daylights out of me.
Man, I have a similar story. 7th grade basketball. At the time, I thought I still had an outside shot at being like the white shooter for the Bulls when I grew up, but I should have known because I was the 10th man on a bad travel basketball team, and I came into the game and had my shot blocked by a one-armed guy. 100% true story. Got pulled from the game, didn't get put back in, and my friends still talk about it to this day.
See?
Yeah, basically
See?
that was when my basketball career
I'm
ended.
telling you, that's people
Yeah.
still talk about those things.
Oh, yeah.
Like even I'm I'm in my 50s and I go back home. Man, you remember when you got your butt kicked by the one-armed girl?
Yeah.
You ever see her again in your dreams?
Yeah.
Like why would you say something like that? How do you even know that?
I think about the one-armed guy.
That'd be in the nightmare category. no
Wasn't there a
question.
movie? Was it
The Fugitive.
The Fugitive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Must have been
Yeah,
Warren.
that's what it reminds me of
Yeah.
there, D. That's
Well,
what
we
it
got
reminds
Fran
me
in research. Hey, Fran, track her down. She's going to be a guest on 142.
Oh, listen, there might be really a fight for real.
You
I
really
might-
do have a
I might
research
need to-
department,
I
though.
might need to get a little TA get back on that one, bro. Seriously, I'm no. You see, you're just bringing up old wounds.
That's
I'm
right.
trying to let it go and move on with my life, and you guys just bring this up.
That's what therapy's for.
No, this is terrible therapy.
Hey, Danny, at the outset, we were talking about the whole Kevin Brown situation. What did you make of that whole thing?
I thought it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I know Kevin. He
Okay.
was a couple years behind me at Syracuse, so I've texted with him a little bit. He's doing fine. I won't speak anything else for him, but I mean, the support that he got was unbelievable. Gary Cohn and Michael Kay and Jason Benetti and Boog Shambi and Susan Waldman and John Sterling, like everybody in baseball broadcasting came out and on the air just started mocking the Orioles.
Yeah.
So that was, I thought, like a really cool testament to like his talent and popularity, but also just how egregious the whole thing was, right? Like it was so, they had 70 wins at the time, the most wins in baseball. And they take a broadcaster off the air for reciting facts that honestly, like if you watch the clip, didn't even paint them in a negative light.
No,
It didn't.
not at all.
It was like, we struggled against the Rays last year and the year before, but we're winning the division this year because of our success against the division, and we have more wins against the Rays this year than the last 2 years combined. Like that's a positive spin on those facts, not a negative one. So it was crazy. I mean, we see like in our line of work, like where we have opinions and we ruffle some feathers sometimes of teams in town, and there are definitely some teams that can handle it better than others, but there is no one that approaches that level of sensitivity. Like, I didn't know that the Baltimore Orioles were the most sensitive team in pro sports, because you have to give them that label if they're going to suspend him for that.
Yeah, they've let a couple of broadcasters go before for dubious reasons.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, these were facts.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It
When's he
wasn't
coming
negative
back? Is
commentary.
he going to be back soon?
Friday.
Okay.
I think Friday he makes his return to TV. He's done some radio since, but I think Friday is his return to TV.
I know Stacey's a big Justin Fields fan. I know yesterday on your show you were talking about, you've got to be in or out. You
Yeah.
feel like this is the year. Maybe you could refresh that for a new audience.
Yeah, I've had so many conversations where like the baseline question is like, is Justin Fields good? And that kind of bothers me because if you watched the games, he's clearly good, right? I mean, they had nothing last year. They had terrible pass blocking, terrible pass catching, injured wide receivers, no number one receiver. He was 3 years in a row in 3 different systems, right? He was at Ryan Day's system with Ohio State, then Matt Nagy's here, and then an entirely different system with Luke Getsy. And learning an offense is like learning a new language. Like, it was a really, really tough spot to be in. And we've seen that in Chicago very recently when Mitch Trubisky had to play too soon in Dowell Loggins' offense, and he looked horrible. So I feel like we should have like a better amount of context for it. And for him to have, 7-game stretch where they average 29 points, for him to have back-to-back games where he rushes for 140 yards, but they lose both games, right? Claypool to get hurt, Mooney to get hurt, them to trade away their best players on defense multiple times where he was driving them down the field at the end of close games, and guys like Amir Smith Marset or whatever his name was, like fumbles the ball. That guy's out of the league. Yeah. Like, that wasn't Justin Fields messing up. Darnell Mooney dropping the ball in the end zone on a perfect pass in that game against Washington on Thursday Night Football. Like, if you actually watched the games, he made plenty of plays to be put in the good category. Now, and now he's got a better offensive line, better pass catchers, continuity of system. So he's going to be good. I don't know if he'll be great. I don't know if he's going to win the MVP. I don't know if he's going to win the Super Bowl. But it bothered me when people were like not willing to at least take a stand on, yeah, he's good. He's definitely good.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been noticing this summer is the national guys are on the bandwagon of really touting him as being an opportunity to be one of the great quarterbacks as he gets older. That's been a change of lately. I mean, I think he gets more hate like in the city than he does nationally, which is really kind of crazy. But if you look at what they've done in the offseason, they went out and got him some weapons. That's been the key for me, going out getting DJ Moore. Claypool's had a disappointing year last year, but they've been talking about him. We had Jeff Joniak on last week, and he was talking about he's been really impressed with the way Claypool's been playing.
Now he's hurt, though.
Now he's hurt. But, the weapons there, Kyle Kmet having a big tight end in the red zone that can help you. And then with the ability to run and keep plays alive with his feet, better offensive line. I just think the kid's in for a big year. And I think when you look at his numbers have been trending up since he's been in the league. And as you said, he's had to work with different offensive coordinators. That's got to be tough for a young quarterback.
Yeah, and I mean, so his last 7 games of last year, his passer rating was like 91.4 or something like that, which if he did that for a season, that would have been 14th in the NFL. So that would have been like Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, guys who have signed huge contracts. Now, they're not Hall of Famers. They're not great, but he was doing that with nobody throwing him the ball, right? Mooney was hurt. Claypool was hurt. And his last game of the year was terrible because of what he had around him. So that's not even just like cherry picking 7 good games. Like, his last game of the year was arguably his worst game, throwing the football. So he finished strong. I think he's trending in the right direction. He has help. And the reason that I think he's getting a lot of love nationally, we've definitely seen it before. We've seen guys take that jump year 3 in the NFL, year 2 in a system, and when they get, to your point, Stacey, like when Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs, it was massive, right? When Jalen Hurts got A.J. Brown, it was massive. And the hope is that DJ Moore is good enough when you combine the continuity of the system to help Justin Fields take that massive leap this year. And then the other thing, and this is more of a media point, ESPN talks about the NFL 365 days a year. Justin Fields is good television. You know what I mean? Like the B-roll, like the highlights that you can put on when you're talking about Justin Fields, good-looking, charismatic, young kid, Chicago, big media market, and he's running for 60-yard touchdowns and screaming his head off. You know what I mean? Like it's a cool B-roll highlight tape. So he's getting he's like kind of come into like the cultural zeitgeist of everyone's going to have an opinion on him. People are going to debate him. But I feel like I can tell the people who actually watch the games versus the people who are just looking at the numbers.
Well, Danny, we mentioned, of course, the Score is the home of the Cubs. They're also the home of the Chicago Bulls. And the Bulls right now, it's kind of the dead period of the NBA. But looking ahead to the season, which is going to be right around the corner, as Stacey well knows, I think one of the big questions is going to be, do you stick with this group that you have and extend DeMar DeRozan? He's extension eligible right now. It could be at a big number. They don't have to go to that max level. But in the situation they're in where they're over the cap, they don't have any maneuverability that way, they don't have a whole lot of draft picks, are you almost forced to offer DeMar an extension at this point? He just turned 34 on Monday, by the way.
So I would say no. I mean, I would be trying to trade DeMar as an expiring contract. And you're probably going to get 60 cents on the dollar. But I think that the flexibility in the future and just there's some redundancy. He needs to have the ball in his hands. And I know he was trending upwards in terms of three-point attempts last year as the season went on, but is that really sustainable? Like, this is like the old dog, new trick sort of thing. He's been the king of the mid-range, and it's an unbelievable weapon. Like, all NBA players marvel, right? Luka's like, have you ever missed from the mid-range? Like, it's an impressive skill, but it's not the most valuable skill now in this NBA. And when he does it, Zach doesn't have the ball in his hands, and I worry that Zach needing the ball, DeMar needing the ball, Vooch wanting and clearly expecting the offense to be run more through him. At some point, Patrick Williams needs to be more of a featured piece as opposed to just like run down to the corner and catch threes and be a sidekick. Like, if they do 2 or 3 more years of DeMar DeRozan, I just think it locks them into a team with a very, very low ceiling. Like, he's lived up to the contract. He's been way better than I thought than I thought he was going to be when they signed him. You know, and so I'm not even really throwing shade at him. I just think that the puzzle pieces don't fit. So I would be looking to cut bait with whatever you could for him, as opposed to an expensive 35 or a 36-year-old player, because he is tradable right now, right? A team would take DeMar DeRozan for the veteran leadership and the pure scoring. I worry that in 1 or 2 more years at a high salary, he's not that tradable.
Yeah, it's a tough situation for the Bulls to be in because, again, with no draft capital, you're at the salary cap, and so you're in a situation where, you know, it's like, okay, what are we going to do? What are we doing here? What's the ultimate goal? Where are we going to go now? And I think their philosophy, they're running it back because they feel like they're going to play much better than they did last year with 3 guys who are all-stars. There's no excuse that you shouldn't win 35 to 40 something games with those 3 guys alone. They built around those guys with some really good two-way players. Torrey Craig is one of the really good, 3-and-D guys in the league. Javon Carter is an underrated player. He really played well in Milwaukee. I like him. He's a younger Patrick Beverley, and we saw the impact Patrick Beverley made with toughness and coming in with a little swagger. But I think the key for this team this year is what kind of start they get off to. Because if you get off to a slow start in the Eastern Conference and you find yourself, trying to skate uphill, then that makes making decisions at the trade deadline easier. But if this team comes out and like they did 2 years ago when they had Lonzo Ball and they jumped out on everybody and had the best record going into the All-Star break before Zoe got hurt, now that puts a tough situation in hand. Now do you make that same move and say, okay, we're number 4 in the Eastern Conference. Do we trade DeMar DeRozan now and get pieces back, or let him walk at the end of the year and get nothing for him like they did Pau Gasol, a few years back when Pau was a free agent? So that's a tough situation to be in, D.
They're in NBA hell, right? They're in the NBA middle class. They're a good team, but they're not a young team, and they don't have a lot of upside, and they can't win a title. So it's just like a really hard thing to get excited about. And yeah, maybe they like play it out to the deadline, like you're saying. But I was shocked when AK said, we can go into the luxury tax for a top 4 or top 6 team in the East. Like, a top 6 team is not something that Bulls fans are going to get all that excited about, right? I mean, Brooklyn was the 6th seed. They got swept in the first round by Philly. It meant absolutely nothing. So And now they're not going into the luxury tax, so maybe he was just saying things to get through the press conference and appease the fans or whatever. But I want to figure out a way to align themselves to like actually have a path to a high ceiling. Like I think Patrick Williams has a high ceiling. I think Zach LaVine is an unbelievable offensive basketball player who is efficient, and his contract is not going to be a problem. Everything else, I don't know that the timeline really matches up with what they're trying to do. So no one would be untouchable if I was running the Bulls.
Yeah, there's always flashpoints in any organization's history. I mean, you look back to 2017 when they made the Jimmy Butler trade. You know, the year before they had brought in Dwayne Wade, who's going into the Hall of Fame this weekend, and Rajon Rondo as free agents to pair with Jimmy. And they were a 41-41 team, took a 2-0 lead on the Celtics, and then Rondo got hurt.
Right, if Rondo doesn't get hurt, they probably win the series. Yeah.
So then they could have brought Wade and Butler back. Instead, they chose to trade Jimmy for that package that included Lauri Markkanen, and of course, then Wade moved on to Cleveland. When you look back at that, you feel like that was a mistake, not trying to build around Jimmy Butler?
No, because I mean, obviously Jimmy won the breakup, but he had to go to Minnesota and Philly before he went to, Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley camp. And you know what I mean? Like, so there is something to be said for like, yeah, it sucks when you see your ex happy, but
Right.
like you have to, at least like, one's gonna be happy with me.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a world in which John Paxson and Jimmy Butler, like that world was gonna not clash. I don't think they were gonna ever fully turn it over to Jimmy because they wanted to be in too much control. I mean, they wouldn't even fully turn it over to Tibbs.
Remember he was saying he was going to recruit Kyrie or Kyle Lowry to come in, and he was going to be this master recruiter because he was playing on the U.S. national team and all that.
I mean, I wish that the Bulls would have embraced that whole thing sooner. Like, I remember when Derrick Rose was like, I'm not going to recruit, like, 12 is better than 3, and everybody at the score, I wasn't at the score at the time, but I was agreeing with it, was like, yeah, 12 is better than 3. No, it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been really cool to recruit. It would have been really awesome to go out there and get the stars. So, like, I wish the Bulls had been more ahead of the curve on a lot of things. But certainly, like, the full-blown player empowerment, stars recruit stars, like, that's just the way of the league. I know a lot of fans don't like it, but it's just the truth.
The funny thing about that free agency with Dwayne Wade and Bosh and LeBron James, I don't think people really know how close the Bulls were to getting those.
Close, yeah.
They were really close to getting. It was so close that Dwayne Wade was a double agent. Dwayne Wade was going back to Pat Riley and reporting how close things were. And Pat Riley went in, the only way that he could afford those guys was to clear the deck.
Yeah.
And the Bulls were in a position that, they could have gotten 2 of the 3 to come play. And that would have been LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, and probably tried to find a way to get Bosh if they had to move some people. But it was set up. It was pretty much like close.
Well, it's crazy. Close. There's so many of those, right? The Bulls, like, since it feels like your era, right? The 90s, we got so spoiled and we've been paying the bill for it for like 25 years. And now obviously had the Derrick Rose lottery luck, which was unbelievable, like a 50-1 shot. But Tracy McGrady was almost a Bull. Kobe Bryant was looking at houses. Yeah. Like Kobe was almost a Bull. And then the big 3 story that's been widely reported about the LeBron almost being a Bull. So, like, cool. Like close doesn't count.
We came in second.
Yeah, it just doesn't count.
You got to close the deal, but there was a time that none of those guys, there was a time after the championship years that you couldn't even get free agents to come visit. Because they had the reputation of the Bulls outside of Chicago, players talk. And so when players are saying this and that and this and that, when you go back to that Jimmy trade, people say, well, Jimmy, Minnesota won, or whoever Jimmy won in that trade. The Bulls got 2 All-Stars out of that. I mean,
they did a good job.
You got Lauri Markkanen and you got Zach LaVine, 2 guys who weren't All-Stars at the time. Lauri was a draft pick. Now look at Lowry over in Utah. He's become like this unicorn player, which I always thought he could be. Like, I've always said, I think the coaches here that had Lowry were so wanted to put him as a center, wanted to put him in the post. And Lowry is a wing player. It's a 7-foot wing player. And when Jim Boylan took over, now Fred recognized that. He had his best years under Fred, and he was trending towards being a very good player, maybe possible all-star under Fred Hoiberg. Fred had him on the perimeter. He was shooting a lot of threes. Jim Boylan got him and, was determined to make him into a post player. And that's where it kind of soured with Lowry, and then the marriage kind of got sour. But you look at some of these guys that have gone off and gone to different teams. They've had some, Cameron Payne. People, used to say he was a tank commander. Now he made himself into a very, viable backup point guard in Phoenix, helped him get to the finals.
Do you think it's over? Do you think the idea of players not wanting to come here? Do you think it's officially over with the Stars? Because I know they get DeMar and Lonzo, but they haven't gotten the tier one guy.
Money talks.
I know.
And you're in a big city.
But everybody offers
talking
the money.
New York now.
No,
New York
but
would be the next.
the attitude has changed though. What they're trying to do has changed. And I think, when you hear DeMar tell players on podcasts, and he's been on our podcast, and he's talking about the city and the fan base, how everybody, he loves it here and loves the fan base. This is an all-star caliber player saying this. And so when he's talking to whoever he's talking to in a podcast, he's telling his friends that. He's telling other, NBA players, man, Chicago is awesome. Because a lot of times people look at Chicago as it's a great city to come, great restaurants and everything, but it's so cold.
Yeah,
that's what you hear people.
That's a big factor.
So Miami's always going to have a leg up on people. LA, both LA teams, California teams going to have a leg up on teams. But at the end of the day, this is a marketable city. The Bulls brand is number one in the NBA. And if you come here as a superstar player and you have a brand and you want your brand to explode, it's gonna be bigger here in Chicago than it's gonna be in Miami.
Do you guys ever do the Hot Ones bit where you have someone chug Chicago Fire?
You want to try?
I mean, I've never had it. It looks good.
Yeah, we had a guy that was helping us out.
You have to
producing the
sign a
show.
waiver though, so if you
And he
chill out on
tried some of the
we're
experimental sauces, and he actually threw up. So.
No way.
But that one didn't make it to market. It didn't pass.
No, we
pass
decided to
muster.
take that one off.
That was the atomic version, right?
Yeah, it had the ghost peppers in it.
Yeah.
It was it was on a scale of 1 to 15. I think it was a 50. The guy Pavel. He's
Russian DJ Pavel.
DJ Pavel. He's a great guy. He started bragging that he had a cast iron stomach. Oh, I can take anything. He was Drago for Rocky. Nothing can stop me. So he takes all our hot sauces. Oh, this is too weak. And then he take another one. Needs more spice. And so we all right, let's pull out the atomic. Let's do it. So we pull out the atomic one, and he starts eating it, and he starts sweating immediately. I thought the guy was having a heart attack. I was like, man, do we got any paddles? His
eyes bulging.
His eyes were bulging, and then he just sits back in a chair, and I'm like, I think we might have killed this dude. Get him some milk.
Yeah.
Get him some milk. Something.
They made a run for it.
And then he went.
He
to
was
the
on the
bathroom.
injured list for a while.
Yeah, he threw up in the trash can. I'm like, oh man, we got to take this off the market. No,
We broke
not-
him. We must break you.
You got to sign a waiver to take that one.
Hey, we want to ask you about your show. Take us behind the scenes. Speaks always jokes about the fact that he's worked for 37 different partners. I was one of them. I've done shows with Speaks, so I'm on that list. Very proud about that. The guy who's really taken off is one of your producers, Shane Reardon, who's become a huge hit on social media. Is he out there somewhere, Shane?
No, he's late. So it's a normal day. Yeah, he said he was going to be here, and he missed the train.
I caught this maybe a month, 6 weeks ago. He went on a diatribe, and somebody had to apologize and all that. Do you guys,
Yeah,
do you
that
guys have a
that happened,
difficult
Mark.
time reining him in? I mean, is it something that you have to talk about in pre-show meetings that you can come on and make your opinions, but be careful?
No. No, you know what's funny about that is that, I love Shane, and Shane is hilarious, and he is definitely very outspoken on social media, and he takes it to the air, and he says some things on the air that I am absolutely floored that he would say on the air.
Well, he's going to take the White Sox on today, he said, about the Middleton thing.
Yeah, there's really never. There's always a target. There's always a target, and it keeps it very interesting. And has it crossed my mind that his responsibility in his life is ultimately to him and his dog,
Right.
and my responsibility in my life is ultimately to my wife, my 1-year-old, my 3-year-old, and my mortgage. And if he says something that sinks the entire ship, that's mildly concerning. I guess I have thought about it, but no, he's awesome, and we try very hard to push the envelope. It's a weird thing. They want us to pop on social media and have people talk about us and be edgy and like walk to the line, but don't cross the line, but the line isn't defined. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's always a sliding scale, and it's live, and we're supposed to be funny, and there's no editor. Like a sports columnist in this town writes a 800-word, 1,000-word column once, twice a week with an editor. We do 4 hours
Yeah,
a
it's a long
day.
time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like the equivalent of writing legitimately like 15 columns a day. You know what I mean? If you really think about like each segment, the number of words that we say. So there's got to be like margin for, yeah, he probably shouldn't have said that, but it's okay. You know, it's harmless ultimately. So, and I do it too. I've gotten in trouble. Every team in town has been mad at me for something at some point. So, no, I love the guy. He's great.
I love when he posts something on social media. It's like, I'm cooking wings on the front porch. Come on by. You know, it's just like for anybody.
It's like a shocking number of people in this town that have his address. And then he's like, someone came to my front yard and like came and like started talking to me, and he was like put off by it. I'm like, dude, you put your address on the internet often. And then he's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot I put it out there.
It's like one of Tim's parties where he doesn't invite anybody, right?
I don't invite anybody ever.
That sounds like
He
a
has
fun party.
cookouts. He says, yeah, I'm going to have a cookout. He tells us about it after the
There's
fact. It
videos
was a really
of it
good time.
online where Stacey came and attacked me at the grill. You saw that, right? Grill fell over.
Oh my God, this guy here.
Just
The
one
only way I
invite.
get an invite to this dude's party is if I'm serving hors d'oeuvres.
Oh
It's
man.
like, you make sure you bring that little tuxedo shirt and white gloves.
like
And I'm
Isaac on the Love Boat,
And I'm like,
man.
what?
Wow.
He's like, yeah, just you can enjoy yourself, but we just need you to serve hors d'oeuvres. I'm
Everything's
like,
pre-taught.
wow,
I don't know what the
30 years
problem
of
is.
abuse. 30 years of abuse.
3 rings, 6th pick
Yeah.
in the draft,
It means
and you're
nothing to
handing
this
out
guy.
wings.
It means nothing to this
Well,
guy.
that's if I invite him, but he's not invited.
Oh wow.
Whispers, you got any questions for our guest? Usually he researches. He goes deep into your background and comes
Oh,
up with
okay.
something that either can embarrass you with or embarrass himself.
No,
Usually
'cause
the latter.
The bad stuff was too bad to bring up on Danny in the air, and we just can't do
All right,
it.
what do you got?
He
Be
knows
kind
what
now.
he knows what it is. Just look at
He
him.
knows what it is.
Just look at him. Yeah, no, I wake up with this face every day. Whispers. Thank you.
Yeah, no. There was I couldn't find any dirt on this guy. It was very disappointing.
You didn't look very hard.
Don't you have a
know.
question?
No, you guys covered them all. I was gonna bring up Reardon, but you guys got that all covered.
Man, he's the star, huh?
I got one more question.
Hey, man, don't
What-
let Shane hear this, Tanny. That's terrible. That's gonna go right
What
to
do
his
you
head.
I
what
have
do you
his address,
think?
though.
What do you think that the Bears' record will be that would be a success for them this year coming into the season?
I mean, more wins than losses would be a success, right? 9-8, and if it's a cop out, but they obviously need to win more than last year, right? They won
Yeah.
3 games, so that's clear. So if they won 6, it would be disappointing. It's a pretty easy schedule, also. But I do think that like if they win, I would personally sign up for 7 wins with Justin Fields looking awesome, as opposed to 10 wins with Justin Fields not looking very good, an injury. You know, like I still think we're early enough. It's probably the last year where you could say this, where it's still like slightly more about Justin Fields' development. I've never in my life seen the Bears have a good franchise quarterback. It's never happened. They're the only team in the NFL who doesn't have a quarterback who's thrown for 4,000 yards. They're the only team in the NFL that doesn't have a quarterback who's thrown for 30 touchdowns. It's a staggeringly level of like incompetence in like the history of the Bears. So if he looks great, but they lose some high-scoring games because the run defense is terrible because they didn't really invest in the defensive line this offseason, besides a couple of draft picks and Ilnyckj Ngakoue after training camp started, like I'm totally fine with that. Like I've seen so many years where the Bears have lost 13-10 because they have no offense.
Yeah.
I'm ready for them to start losing games 30-27.
Yeah.
But the quarterback's lighting it up. You know, so there's a range in there for success. 10 wins is amazing, but if Fields sucks, it's going to feel like history repeating itself.
And it's all about the quarterback. Obviously, before you came to Chicago, you were working in Kansas City radio.
Yeah.
They kind of lucked into Patrick Mahomes, and that turned everything around. I mean,
Well, you know, Kansas City thanks me because I
was you leaving town that
I
turned it
started
around?
here in January of 2017. That draft was in April. The Bears drafted Mitch Trubisky. The
Right.
Chiefs drafted Pat Mahomes.
it's all about the quarterback, right?
I was going to say it's all about me. But yeah, I suppose.
Spoken like a true radio host.
Yeah,
It's all about me.
I suppose the quarterback has a little something more to do with it.
So, Danny, what did you think about Mahomes' dad coming out and saying that they were promised the Bears were picking him?
I drank heavily that night. It was
So did I.
I was with you.
it was devastating.
But that's just another Tuesday for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, me too. Yeah, it was devastating. That whole thing, man. Why'd we have to bring this up? Well, because like it was just so flawed. Like a lot of people had Mitch as the top guy. A lot of people had him as the top guy, but they didn't even work out Deshaun Watson.
Right.
They didn't even work him out. Only college player ever to have 4,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards. And at that point, he had a perfect reputation. And Ryan Pace didn't even do a visit with him. So the whole thing was just so flawed. And he very clearly like zeroed in on Mitch and fell in love with. He drives the 95 Camry that was his grandma's, and they went out to the restaurant in North Carolina, and he made a reservation under the name James McMahon, Party of Eight for Jim McMahon. And he just like very clearly fell for the like good old boy
Banana in a tailpipe trick.
Yeah, and whereas Mahomes, you see all this stuff, and it's like, oh, he's got a photographic memory, and he memorized Andy Reid's offense and aced the test in the pre-draft workout. And it's like, well, how the hell did you not? How were you more impressed with the Camry and the funny name on the reservation than the dude who learned Andy Reid's offense for a pre-draft interview in like a day? Because that's the story of Mahomes in Kansas City. Now, Matt Nagy apparently fed him some answers, but still, like I covered those teams when Andy Reid was there. That offense is complicated. 15-word play calls, like it is complicated. And so for him to ace that test in a pre-draft, there's absolutely no way that Mitch Trubisky was more impressive talking football than Pat Mahomes was talking football.
And he had less experience. I mean, he'd only been like a starter for like 2 years.
One season.
Yeah, one year.
One.
Yeah,
Wow.
The whole thing is sickening. Yeah. It's probably. I mean, Derrick Rose's knee, Steve Bartman with the ball,
Steve Bartman,
and
this is misery.
And Mitch over Mahomes are like the three biggest Chicago what ifs of my
2010 free agency.
2010 free agency is a big one. Yeah. But if I have to go three, I'm going those three.
Yeah.
I'm going
It's
those.
tough being a Chicago sports fan. Everybody knows out there. And I guess we'll ask one more prediction. Cubs, they make the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I think so.
Think that the starting pitching is going to hold up?
I think the offense has been unbelievable. I think that Stroman will come back and be good, even if he's not as great as he was at the beginning. And they're chasing teams that are just not as talented as them. Like baseball's the ultimate sample size over 162. They have more talent than the Reds. They have more talent than the Brewers. They spend more money than those teams. So I would think they'll catch them now that they're playing well. And if they don't, they're Arizona, Miami, like teams like that in the wild card also spend more money than them, have more talent than them. So at this point, yeah, I think they'll make the playoffs.
Well, that'd be great for the score and all the Cub fans out there who want to
Amen.
see him get back to the postseason. I want to thank you, Danny, for coming by before your radio show. Give our best
Episode
to Speed.
141, man.
141.
Again, I'm just
It
so
always
honored.
stands out.
Yeah.
And tell Shane next time he's cooking wings on the balcony, Stacey and I and Tim want to be invited.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you guys, again, you know where he lives.
easy to find.
Just show up.
Oh, we're going to find him.
Yeah, you'll find him.
We'll find him.
Danny Parkins,
Thanks,
our
guys.
special guest on
Thanks,
Gimme the
man.
Hot Sauce. Thanks for dropping by. We got a little
disco
more
ball.
nonsense to get to
Yeah,
after a
disco
break.
ball
We'll
going
tell
on
you
here.
what we're watching on TV and a little bit more when Gimme the Hot Sauce rolls
kinda
on.
nice.
Want to thank Danny Parkins for joining us, and I want to thank everybody here who came out to watch the show. Great hospitality from everybody at the Score. Hope you had a lot of fun. We've got a little more nonsense left before we say goodbye. We'll do our What Are We Watching segment, but first I want to talk a little bit of basketball before we get out of here. Stacey, we mentioned Dwayne Wade in the Hall of Fame class of 2023. You got Dwayne Wade, Dirk Nowitzki, Pau Gasol, Tony Parker, Greg Popovich. That's a pretty good group, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's basketball royalty right there.
Yeah.
And each one of those guys are deserving. Popovich is still playing. There should be a rule that you can't go in the hall until you're done. But Popovich,
You coach until he's 80, though.
Yeah, now that
Signed a new deal.
you got the big kid Victor, so
Yeah.
he's probably going to coach another 5 years. So, but yeah, you know what? That's well deserving, and I'm a big fan of D Wade. I've always been a big fan. I know his tenure here wasn't very long, and we didn't get what we thought we were going to get out of him. But he's always been a great player in this league. He's been a great ambassador. He's always repped the city of Chicago. I'm a big fan. Always will be.
It's funny, we were talking about our experiences here at the Score. Stacey hosted the mornings once with Mike Mulligan, and I also did it once. And it was back in 2010. It was the first day of free agency. It was July 1st. So we were talking about the possibilities and what might happen. So, when you're not used to doing that shift, it just drains you. So I got home and I took a nap. I'm like, man, I'm just zonked. So then I get back out, I wake up and I see on ESPN there's a crawl that Dwayne Wade is going to have a second meeting with the Bulls. And I'm like, holy shit, this is going to happen, and he's going to bring LeBron, and, they're going to win all these championships with D Rose and Noah and Luol Deng and the whole group. And it just fell apart that quickly. I mean, you talked about the fact that Wade was being a double agent, and I think that, he's a Chicago area guy, and I think a lot of people are kind of like down on Dwayne Wade because they felt like, the what ifs and what might have been had he and LeBron come here in 2010.
It would have been special, and it would have been interesting to see how that team would have shaped out, because I don't know if you would have been able to add those type of players and still be able to keep Luol Deng, or Joakim Noah. I know the Bulls would have tried, but it would have been very difficult, because you saw what Miami did. In order to fit those three guys into a contract situation and get them on the team, they had to clear the deck.
Right.
The only guy they kept was Michael Beasley, who was their draft pick. So he was set. But everybody else, they pretty much had to sign new deals, vet minimums.
They were rounding up
old
players from around
they
the
won, won some championships there. It wasn't 5, it wasn't 6, it wasn't 7, as they said. But, they won championships there. And the team, and I think had they won the year that they didn't win, and I think LeBron was waiting for a reason to leave, because the Heat culture is real. I don't know if people really understand how serious that culture is down there. I played down there with Pat Riley's first year, and the one thing he did was change the culture. I remember going there thinking, okay, I'm in Miami, the beach, South Beach. I'm gonna play a lot of golf. I'm gonna ride jet skis. I'm just gonna have the best time, the fun in the sun, And I got down there, man, it was like a concentration camp. Like, there was no jet skis. Pat Riley does everything big. We only stayed in Ritz-Carltons. That's all we ever stayed at. So we're in Boca Raton staying at this Ritz-Carlton, which is unbelievable. It's one of the best hotels in the country. So we get there, and I'm like, oh man, look at the golf course, look at the jet skis, everything. And all the players are feeling the same way, because no one's experienced Pat Riley yet. So we get in the meeting, and the first day we're sitting in the meeting, and everybody's in the chairs, whatever. He pulls out the playbook. Now, I've seen playbooks. Playbooks sometimes are 15 pages, 20 pages. I mean, this man pulled out the New York City phone book of his plays, and we were all looking like, and he wanted us to memorize, the plays. So every day he would pick a random 3 or 4 guys to find out if they were really studying or they're really reading. I remember the first day of training camp, when you walk out on the floor on a normal NBA training camp, there's racks of balls. There's balls. There are guys that are shooting around. They're just doing their own little thing. You walk on a Pat Riley training camp, there's no balls. There's no balls anywhere. So you're like looking around like, okay, where are the basketballs? And then you get, a young Eric Spoelstra, who was the camera guy at the time, and some of the assistant coaches said, oh, Pat Riley, he doesn't want balls on the court right now. We're doing a conditioning test. And, guys like, conditioning test? What's the conditioning test? So it's like 17s going sideways, sideward on the court. You got to run them in a certain amount of time. Guards had a time, 2 guards, small forwards, power forwards, and centers. And let's say your cumulative time is, 3 minutes and 50 seconds, that you have to do 5 17s in that time. You're not doing them all together. It's like you go one, then someone else goes, and your only rest is the guy in front of you in the line. So if you don't do the time, you gotta continue to do those things every single day, whether it's the second practice or the next day. You've got to do those 17s until you get them right. And I remember, man, dudes were dying, guys were throwing up, and no one was in shape, because like when I was in Chicago, Field always said, come to camp, because we were playing all the way until June. So he'd always say, just come to camp like 60%. We'll work our way up. And that's what we always did. And, you come to Pat Riley 60%, you better come Navy SEAL in shape. Like, that's seriously, so when I see the culture and I see the things that they've established down there in the wind, Gimme, I knew Gimme would do well there, because there's major structure there. Jimmy's not going to be able to run through people like he was able to do here in Minnesota and Philadelphia. He's not going to be able to tell, Pat Riley or Spoelstra what he wants done. They're going to say, hey, you're going to do it our way, or you're not going to be here. And you saw that big fight that broke out almost in a timeout between him and Spoelstra. How many coaches you ever see that would stop what they're doing and challenge a player in the middle of a game?
Right. Yeah, you
don't see that very often, and you don't see players really challenging coaches like that. It's Gimme, and so To see Pat Riley step up and basically, call Gimme in the office and say, we don't do that here. That tells you how strong the culture is in Miami.
All right, so Dwayne Wade was here for one season. I think he averaged about 19 points a game. We talked about that earlier with Danny, the fact they lost in the first round of the playoffs and they broke that team up. Pau Gasol played 2 years with the Bulls, made the All-Star team both times. What were your impressions of Pau when he was here in Chicago?
Just class, pure class. The guy comes to work every day. Good leader, guy that took younger players under his wing and really tried to instill work ethic, because he played with Kobe, and so when you play with a guy like Kobe, you're going to take some of those things you learn and you're going to pass them on to younger guys. And I thought he did a great job. I knew he was a Hall of Famer. He was a Hall of Famer had he stayed in Vancouver, Memphis. Had he stayed in Memphis, he would have been a Hall of Famer on that team. And then it just solidified it when he joined the Lakers. After Shaq leaves, no one thinks Kobe's going to win a championship anymore. And he's one of the big reasons why they were able to win a championship. And his relationship with Kobe was unique. Kobe doesn't befriend everybody, but he loved Pau Gasol. Phil Jackson loves Pau Gasol. And well-deserved honor. Like, he's just a good guy.
Yeah, and to this day, he's still very close to the Bryant family, Kobe's widow, Vanessa, and their children, making sure that, they're not forgotten. There's no question about that. We mentioned kind of a dead period in basketball, but there is the World Cup coming up at the end of August, and the U.S. had their first exhibition game. They beat Puerto Rico by about 45 points, and it's an interesting group, a lot of young guys with no international experience, and I know that they're competing for spots next year in the Paris Olympics, where everybody wants to play because they get a chance to get their brand out and really do a lot of marketing things, but a lot of guys skipped this year. You think the U.S. will be able to win this World Cup, or are they in for trouble against some of these teams like Spain and Canada that have kind of loaded up?
Yeah, they have a chance to win. They've got a lot of talent. I think the biggest issue with America's teams when they send over there is that the fact that these the foreign teams have been playing together. They play together year-round. They're constantly playing play-in games and stuff like that. So the continuity with those teams are much better than it is with the USA. Now, I will say this. USA basketball, since, Colangelo took over, has done a good job of creating these teams and creating these summer opportunities for guys to come in and play, whether it be select teams, college teams. They're starting to build up their program. USA basketball is in good hands. There's a lot of talent here in the United States. There's a lot of guys. It used to be a point where guys didn't want to play in the Olympics. Oh, it's too much games and da-da-da-da. And now they realize being on the world market and a big stage like that is a chance to help their brand. And the thing I don't really like is that, these kids are going to go out, they give up their summer to go play for their country, and they want to go out there and they want to make a good showing. And then when it comes time for the Olympics, they want to play on the Olympic team, and they're going to get bumped off by superstar players, which is not fair at all. So that's my only gripe with it. A guy like LeBron, if he wants to play, he's going to bump off, off a player. If Kevin Durant wants to play, even though Kevin Durant played in the Olympics before, if he wants to play and he didn't have to play in any of these playing games, he's going to bump a deserving Kevin. Yeah, so it's tough. I mean, we want to win the gold, but man, I feel bad for these guys who dedicate themselves in the summer, who come out and play and have a chance and want to have a chance to play in the Olympics, may not get that chance.
If you haven't seen Luka Doncic yet this summer, he's in fantastic shape. Yesterday they had a game. He was like 34, 13, and 14, something like that, a triple-double. And it's going to be interesting to see what he can do with Kyrie Irving in Dallas.
Well, the crazy thing about Luka is Luka always gets in shape for his national team.
Right.
He always looks like a different player when he's playing on his national team compared to when he plays in the NBA. It seems like when he gets off the national team and then he comes into the play, it's almost like he's got like that James Harden fat suit. They always tease about James Harden had that fat suit, and then all of a sudden he miraculously is in shape when he gets traded to the team he wants to get traded to. He just peels it off and he goes out there and plays. That's what they say about Luka.
The food's too good in Dallas, I guess,
the
right?
lemon pepper wings. That's a big thing for James Harden. But yeah, I love Luka's game, man. The NBA is in good hands. There's a lot of young talent. Guys like Ja Morant got to get themselves together. Zion Williamson. These young kids who have all this potential, that have a chance to be the face of the NBA, they're going to have to start getting their off-the-court issues in order, because they have a chance to be the face of this, this organization for many, many years to come. LeBron's not going to play forever. You know, I mean, I
Seems
know
like
people.
he wants to, though.
Well, you know what? I mean, hey, listen, unless he's on the TB12, playing, I don't know. They're playing in their 40s and all the wear and tear that he's had on his body. It's tough. If anybody can do it, he can do it, because I know he wants to play with his son, but we don't know the situation with Bronny James yet. But, he's getting ready. He's at the end. Now you're starting to, you got to see who's going to take that mantle, who's going to be the face of the NBA. Right now, if you ask him, me, it's not a popular choice, but it's the Joker. The Joker to me is the face of the NBA. He may not be pretty, his game may be ugly, but the proof is in the pudding. This dude is dominant. This dude has now he's won 2 MVPs, should have had MVP this year, 3, but he won the finals MVP. He's taken his team to a championship now. And now the biggest thing for him now is how can he sustain that type of play now that everyone's going to be after him. Everybody's going to be gunning for Denver. How are they able to, be able to put 2 in together? Because the mark of a good team, a good franchise, is how many championships you put together, how many you string together. I'm a big fan of the 2-peat, 3-peat, 4-peat. When you do that, you're dominant. I don't like we win a championship every 3 years, that kind of stuff, because you can't call yourself a dynasty when you can't defend your title multiple times like the Bulls did, Boston Celtics, Lakers did some. You can't call yourself a dynasty if you're winning championship on odd years.
Yeah, I mentioned early in the show that both Stacey and Whispers are big fans of boxing. I know you caught the Jake Paul-Nate Diaz fight. Our good friend Kendall Gill spent about 3 years challenging Jake Paul. You think he's going to step away back through the bushes now?
Yeah, if I'm Kendall, I'm still challenging because Jake Paul looked kind of, he looked kind of weak. I mean, Nate Diaz is not a boxer and he doesn't hit hard, but he was able to stay 10 rounds with this guy. I know people don't like the YouTube stuff, the boxing with YouTube. I find it very entertaining. There's not a lot of sports, being like basketball's not out there, so it's something else to watch. I'm a big MMA fan, UFC fan, and boxing with the Errol Spence and the Terrence Crawford fight was huge. Boxing's starting to make the fights that the fans want to see because, and I love Floyd Mayweather, the 15-0 and then, he's the greatest ever, he likes to call himself. But, even Floyd didn't fight guys in their prime. Now you see these fighters understanding hey, look, I got to fight the best. I got to go back to that era of Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran. I got to go back to that generation where the best fought the best. Because when you do that, your legacy is secure in the boxing world. But when you are one of these people that you fought someone that was 10 years past their prime, you can't really call yourself the greatest because you didn't fight him at his physical peak, and he's not fighting you at your physical peak.
Whispers, are you getting the ring with Jake Paul?
No, because I watched that documentary of him. I didn't know a lot about him. They just put that out, and watching his whole process and his dedication to it, and actually how smart he was as a business guy in this process, it's remarkable.
He's made a ton of money.
Well, first of all,
I
I just want to just piggyback on his comment. He didn't want to get in the ring with him. If you're scared, go buy a damn dog.
Oh,
okay.
there we go.
If you're scared, go buy a dog. I'll get in the ring with him. I will get in the ring with him in a second. I think I got my chances.
Is that before or after your hip surgery?
That's after the hip surgery. I got to be able to swivel into my punches. I got to be able to turn those hips into the punches.
Yeah.
I'll let Kendall fight him though. I think Kendall could beat him.
Kendall could do it.
Kendall's in great shape.
I think
There's
Kendall
no
could beat
question
him.
about it.
Yeah, I think
he
Kendall
would love
could
to
beat
do
him.
it.
Shout out to my boy Kendall Gill.
Yeah. Hey, now it's time for one of our favorite segments. We do this just about every week. It's What Are We Watching? It's brought to you by our friends at Biggers Mazda. You can see the banner right in front of us. Their sizzling new Elgin location at Randall Road is the biggest Mazda store in the state of Illinois. Biggers is offering a bottle of Stacey's signature hot sauce with first test drives of new or pre-owned vehicles. It's your choice, everything from the coolest SUVs to the stunning Miata. So join the fun at 2100 Randall Road in Elgin at Biggers Mazda. Tell them Whispers sent you, and they'll look at you really funny. Jim Lecter, one of your good friends, right, Whispers?
That's right, and you'll get some hot sauce out there too, just for taking a ride.
Hot sauce is everywhere. It's taken over the Chicagoland area. Taken over the world, actually.
Yeah, just look for that guy right down there at the corner of the table. It's Jim Lecter.
All right.
Oh, I thought you were talking about.
I thought you were talking about
I thought about the
Snoop.
little.
I didn't know
Snoop
Snoop was
or you
at
talking about
the Elgin
bobblehead
location
right
of
there. I didn't know you was
Biggers
talking about.
All right, Stacey, what do you got for the recommendation for the folks?
Oh, listen, America. I just got turned on to Banshee. I didn't know anything about Banshee, but I'm a big fan. If you watch The Boys, the superhero show that's on. It's a really good show. If you've never seen that, that's The Boys. But the lead actor in The Boys, Homelander, is
the small town sheriff.
Yeah, is the small town sheriff in Banshee, and he's really not a sheriff. He's a convict.
Right.
And so he ends up taking over the sheriff's role because the actual sheriff, something happened to him. So he ends up taking his identity. But it's a great show because he starts to act like a sheriff. Like he's
the violence is real.
No, the violence is real. America is like John Wick, okay? But Banshee is really good. It's got a lot of good actors in it, good storylines, good plots, and you're constantly guessing, trying to figure out, what's going on, why he's the way he is. I mean, it's a great show. I'd recommend it.
Whispers, what do you got?
Well, I watched that Jake Paul documentary, and that was great. I've been watching Florida Man too, but one thing I want to add about the Jake Paul thing is that they interview Tyson in there quite a bit. And as he said, you got to remember, Frith, it's entertainment.
Oh, God, stop it. Stop it. I knew this was coming. America, see, here we go.
He does one good impersonation, and he tries to do others, and it just fails miserably.
Here we go.
Yeah, but
again.
he
Tweety
talks
Bird.
about that. And,
Tweety Bird.
No, Sylvester
Sylvester the cat.
That's right. The audience agrees. He does sound like that, doesn't he?
cat. Let's just stop. Stop.
Oh,
The Tyson is.
We're gonna win this
We need to
one
put
over
that
one day.
back. I will give you Christopher Walken. That is your ace, and that's your ace right there. Stay on that. Perfect that. When you start going with this Mike Tyson, I mean, seriously, like
coming back.
it's cringy. It's
definitely
cringy.
cringy.
I really just want to
Cringe-worthy.
just like karate chop you right here. Just stop. Just
That
stop.
might help.
Hey, did you guys see the first episode of Hard Knocks? They're doing the New York Jets this year. It is the Aaron Rodgers love fest. I almost threw up watching that thing. I mean, he was acting like he's the ultimate teammate. He's helping Zach Wilson with his reads, and he's going over to the young receivers and encouraging them, and he's putting the equipment manager out there saying, this is my guy, and being the perfect teammate. All the things he didn't do in Green Bay at the end,
Well,
including
he's a
not
producer,
going to the
isn't he?
off-season program. What's that?
Isn't he in the credits as a producer?
You should be. I mean, they made it sound like he was a combination of Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Joe Namath, every other great quarterback that ever played. It was sickening how much they featured Aaron Rodgers in that thing, and it was almost like you said, like he produced the thing.
Well, they even got Liev Schreiber in there, I heard.
Yeah, he came over and he was just bowing down to A-Rod too. It was something.
Listen, man. Listen.
He should have gone right down.
It
on him.
sounds a lot. I don't like Aaron Rodgers, but it sounds like a lot of haters up here. Okay, all right. Aaron Rodgers is going to have a good year. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm glad he's out of our division. We don't have to worry about him anymore. We're going to worry about Love. I think I'll take my chances with Green Bay now with Love as the quarterback. So I'm just so happy he's out of New York. I could care less where he's at because he just kind of owned the Bears. And he let you know he owned the Bears. Like, I got tired.
He made that
I
very
just
clear.
wanted to go
There's
out there
no
and
question
tackle him
about it.
sometimes when he was doing the discount double check. And I'm like, man, somebody hit this dude. Like, so I'm so glad he's out of the division. So the Bears' chances are up. But I still think, the Lions are the team to beat. Minnesota, after watching that QB, what is that show on Netflix, Quarterback?
Yeah, quarterback.
Yeah. After watching Kirk Cousins, I have a little bit more respect for Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. Like that guy.
You like that?
I liked what I saw with him, because he's not flashy. He's not, the things he does is not going to wow you, but he's just consistent. He's a winner. He's consistent.
The plaid shirts.
The dad bod, the dad shirts and stuff. His wife. Okay, that's something we have to talk about there. You can't. If you're Kirk Cousins, man, don't let your wife pick out your clothes because it's not pretty. No.
All right, Stacey, since we got an audience here, rattle off some of the other shows you like this summer. I know you like From a lot, right?
Yeah, From is good. I went back. You know what? I'm an old school guy, so I went back and started watching like old shows that I like, The Sopranos, because sometimes you forget how The Sopranos was. So there's certain things you forget. So you go back and watch Sopranos. I went back and I watched Boardwalk Empire. Succession. I got into Succession, watched that. I was just so disappointed in the ending. I was just like, man, come on. Like, you can't do this to me. But it was good. And, what else have I been watching? I watch a lot of Netflix. There's some shows I can't really divulge what I watch. Here, this is a kids channel.
And Power Force is coming back.
Power
with our
Force,
guy,
yes.
Joseph
We got some interesting guests coming on, man.
Yeah.
We got Tommy from Power going to be coming on the show. He's from Chicago. I don't think people know that. We have Jeremy Piven, who's from Chicago as well. He's going to come on the show. He was Ari off of
Gold.
Entourage.
Yeah.
We got Michael Rappaport coming on the show. Yeah, you know what? We got some really good guests coming on, and the season, like I said, it's going to be coming up pretty close, and we're going to have a lot of more basketball talk. Right now, it's Bears and Cubs right now. They're the hottest thing, so that's where we really have really turned our attention to a little bit because, it's a good story. I want to see the Bears do good. If the Bears play well, then it starts everybody else's season off, puts a little pressure on everybody else to do well. So if the Bears are winning, that means pressure goes on the Bulls. If Cubs are winning, it pressure on everybody else.
Yeah,
so that's what I like to see.
Hey, we want to thank everybody at the Score for making us feel so welcome today. I want to thank Mitch Rosen, Ryan Porth, everybody involved with having us here today. We had a great time bringing the show on the road here to the studios. And Whispers, you got any party comments?
Thanks to Rich and our crew as well.
Yep, Rich Wyatt doing a great job, making sure we sound and look okay. And thanks to Maddie
Rich.
and Nicky Knuckles and the Sriracha crew.
The Sriracha crew who came in here.
Cisco's out here as well.
We got Cisco. We did a good job. We brought the show on the road, and you know what? It's a lot of fun to get a chance to do something different. We're normally shooting the Sriracha studios, but being able to get out on the road and interact with people is awesome. I had a blast. This is a lot of fun.
And we want to wish Stacey all the best. He's got hip replacement surgery coming up next week, so good luck with
HIPAA
that.
law here?
We
HIPAA law?
we probably
Violation. Lawsuit. Let me call my lawyer real quick.
we probably won't see him in studio for quite a while, but while he's on the mend,
I'll be
we're
back.
sending good thoughts your way.
I'll be back to moonwalking pretty soon. So,
And Nicky, I know you're going to tell me that we'll put the clothes in post-production, right? All right, so thanks everybody for coming out. We appreciate it very much.
Drive home safely.
Brand new episode every week of Give Me the Hot Sauce.
Beep, beep.